Με τα λεύς.
What up, ma'am? Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition has just released and it looks amazing now that it's been given the trending remaster treatment that all of our childhood favourites are privy to these days. I'd be lying if I said it didn't look any better, and I'm glad that fans get to play it again with all these enhancements. But in this video, I'm going to tell you about a cousin of Age of Empires that, in my opinion, is much better, much more interesting, and much more deserving of a remaster. Before we get to that though, let's see what Age of Empires 3 is all about, shall we? It starts off like every real-time strategy game that's ever existed ever. You start off with a small number of villagers or grunts like myself, and one town centre where, for the time being, the resources that the villagers gather will get put into the town centre. Speaking of resources, there's 4 main resources. You got food, which you get from hunting until farms are built and other methods of getting it. Wood, from cutting trees and doing what we humans do best by obliterating the landscape that the wildlife relies so heavily upon. Coin, from mining. And experience, which you just get as time goes on, and you get more for building your own buildings and destroying enemy units and buildings. Resources are used for buildings and units, slowly turning your quaint little settler community into a destructive metropolis to be reckoned with, striking your enemies with an iron fist. Once you've progressed through the ages, that is. And the different ages you have the Discovery Age, which represents the discovery and exploration of the Americas by the Europeans. And this age just allows the player just to explore the map and develop their economy by just building the basic buildings. Then you got the Colonial Age. This represents the European invasion, expansion into the New World, and this unlocks early military units like pikemen or musketeers. Then the Fortress Age, which is the fortification of the European colonies. You can build forts. The Industrial Age. This gives the player a strong economy due to the building of factories and buildings that give automatic resource production. And this one unlocks all the units as well. And then we got the Imperial Age, which unlocks all buildings, all upgrades. You have everything in this age. It's the final age. Not sure what it represents though. Now there's 8 main playable civilizations, and these are Spanish, British, French, Portuguese, Dutch, Russian, German, and Ottoman. I use one of those for my kid's toy box. But within some of these, during the campaign, you play as other, I guess it would be factions of some sort, or spin-offs of these specific civilizations. So with the Spanish, you have the Knights of St. John. The British, you could play as the United States of America. And with the Germans, you play as John Black's mercenaries. And all of the different civilizations have their own strengths and weaknesses, along with specific units that they can use. For example, the Spanish get war dogs and lancers, which is fine. I didn't feel bad about taking the dogs out in The Last of Us Part 2, so I'm not going to feel bad about sending these good boys off to their deaths here. And the Dutch get a bank to generate coin. Now, Age of Empires 3 introduced a politician system, which is very similar to a system used in the other game we'll talk about soon. And what this means is when advancing to a new age, you get to choose a politician, and whichever politician you choose grants you specific bonuses. For example, when choosing the naturalist, you'll receive 4 cows, which is good for hunting and producing food. And that's pretty much the gist of it. But what has the Definitive Edition introduced? Well, you have enhanced audio, which I'm guessing means the music sounds better, and just a few sound effects that are in there. I'm not really hot on audio, so I don't want to go too deep into that one. Fully remastered 4K graphics, and I must say, if you have a look here, it does actually look amazing how different it looks, how great it looks compared to the original. It looks fantastic. All of the expansions are included, and 2 new civilizations have been introduced, the Inca and the Swedes. That's everything I have to say about Age of Empires 3. So moving on to the much better, more interesting, and more remaster deserving cousin. Age of Mythology. Now, Age of Mythology starts off like every other RTS that's ever existed ever, where you start off with one town centre and a small number of villagers, and a blacked out map for you to explore. Resources differ very slightly. You have food, which you get from hunting or later on farming, wood from deforesting the immediate area, gold from mining gold deposits, and favour by having villagers pray at a temple. For years I thought the sign for favour was a branch of berries, and it's only while researching for this video I realised that it was actually lightning. My childhood is a lie. Again, resources are used for building buildings and units to go from a quaint little community to a mega superpower destroying your enemies, and passing through different ages. Now the ages we have here are the Archaic Age. You start off with a couple of basic buildings like a few houses and you can build a storehouse, things like that. Then you have the Classical Age, which represents the ancient Greece that we all know and love in the real world and gives you access to more buildings and units like hoplites. Hoplites? Then the Heroic Age, which, much like the Fortress Age in Age of Empires 3, you can build forts. And the Mythic Age, which unlocks all buildings, all units, all upgrades. And when advancing through the ages, you get to choose a minor god, similar to the politician system that I talked about. Well, there's a major and a minor god system here. You don't get to choose during the campaign, but I'll talk about the campaign in a minute. But the major god that you choose at the very beginning determines which minor gods you can choose throughout the game, or throughout that level. And they give you specific powers that you could use. For example, Zeus gives you Bolt, which kills a single enemy unit. Poseidon has Lure, which draws wild animals near your village so you can hunt for more food. And Hades has Sentinels, which places 4 archer statues around your town center to protect it from enemy units using ranged attacks. And then you have minor gods, which you get through progressing each age, and they give you other abilities and units that you could use. For example, choosing Athena gives you Restoration, which restores HP to units and buildings in a large area. Technologies like Labyrinth of Minos. Now this turns Minotaurs into Bull Minotaurs. You could then also build the Myth unit, Minotaur. Oh yeah! Remember in my Immortals Phoenix Rising video when I said this? Just grab a Minotaur by the horns and just face fuck him and throw him aside. Yeah, well you could do that here too. Different gods provide you with different myth units. If you choose Hephaestus, you could have a Colossus. And if you choose Dionysus, you could have fucking Hydra. Hail Hydra! The campaign follows an Atlantean admiral named Arkantos, who is forced to travel through the lands of 3 different cultures in pursuit of a Cyclops who is in league with Poseidon against Atlantis. Notice I said 3 different cultures. That's right, it's not just Greek in this game. You get to go through ancient Egypt, you get to go through Norse mythology, and they have major events in the game from those mythologies. For example, during the Greece part at the start, you get to take part in the Trojan War. That's right, you get to one-up the old Spice Guy and be in a horse. And then when you're in ancient Egypt, you could stop Kronos from being freed from Tartarus. And once you reach Norway, you have to help prevent Ragnarok. Seems like the same journey that Kratos took. I wonder if he stopped in ancient Egypt. If you haven't guessed, I really love Age of Mythology. I'm really happy for the Age of Empires fans to be getting remasters, but we really need a remaster of Age of Mythology. Or at least a sequel. An expansion was released in 2016, 14 years later, and introduced the Chinese civilization, but I demand more! Would you like to see Age of Mythology remastered? What mythologies would you like to see explored? Let's discuss it down in the comments. Subscribe for discussions on all things gaming, past, present and future. And if you're a fan of Greek mythology, then click the card at the end to see my video on Ubisoft's Immortals Phoenix Rising. I'll see you over there. Bye bye.